I want to bring into the conversation this morning Justin Streckel. He is here this morning to discuss with us the MORE Act. The MORE Act is a piece of legislation that I am supporting, Dr. Mack. And it is, when we consider the world shifting, America particularly shifting as it pertains to marijuana and the legalization of marijuana, there are so many companies that are poised to make billions. There are some states now, there are cities, and just the revenue is so high. Yet there are Black men and women and marginalized people who are in jail now. And so the MORE Act addresses some of this. Good morning to you, Justin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you so very much for having me. I'm really excited. No joke. It's legalization day.
Oh, you know what? I did not know that. Tell us more about Legalization Day, but also tell us more about the MORE Act and how it actually addresses some of these inequalities.
No, today's the day on the MORE Act. That's what I mean by Legalization Day. And we're really excited. So first off, my name is Justin Streckel, and thank you so very much for having me. The Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, or MORE Act, was first introduced 3 years ago. And today is going to be the first time that it's voted on before Americans go to the polls. So that way they know whether or not their representative voted to maintain the status quo of criminalization or voted for comprehensive reform. And the bill, there's a lot of things that this bill does that are really terrific. The big top lines are it creates a funding stream in what's known as the Marijuana Opportunity Trust Fund that would dedicate that all of the federal revenue generated from the emerging marijuana industry is perpetually reinvested through programs that would be set up specifically to support those who have been harmed by the war on drugs. One of the best ways to put it, and I really don't like saying this certain member from Congress or member from Florida's name, but one congressman said that this is a perpetual reparations machine. And it's a really, really thoughtful bill. I want to give a tremendous amount of praise to Representatives Barbara Lee and Earl Blumenauer, who have been working on this issue tirelessly, and Chairman Nadler, who picked up the ball working with all three, and moving forward this bill today. So we're excited to see what's going to happen. We expect to win, but we're waiting to see how a few of the moderate Democrats are going to fall, and how a few of the supposedly pro-reform Republicans are going to ultimately cast their vote.
Now, Justin, let me
go ahead, Dr.
Please let me jump in on this one. So Justin, I need to make sure I understand this. So you're saying that as a result of this bill, you all are proposing that all of the proceeds or a portion of the proceeds be reinvested back to help folks who have been hurt as a result of marijuana.
So there would be a 5% federal excise tax that would be established on cannabis products, and that all of that would go into this new trust fund, and that has multiple different streams. There's one stream that would go in that would be specifically through DOJ to incentivize state and local governments to facilitate expungements, and then working with partners like the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, the ACLU, Code for America, and others. We would really push to make sure that all of those expungement programs would be automatic, not petition-based. That's a really important thing, but that's local policy. So for those of you who are tuning in, if you're following how your city or your state does expungements, if they're not doing them automatically, if they're talking about petitions, push them, go talk to them right now, and say that you want automatic expungements, because those who need it most are the ones who don't have the ability to hire a lawyer and go through that process.
So Justin, I get that there's a 5% excise tax, but is this a 5% excise tax in addition to what would be normal federal tax? Is this something in addition?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now, there's this crazy situation with legal cannabis where under an IRS section known as 280E, all of these marijuana businesses that we see established under state licensed programs, because they're in defiance of federal prohibition, they still have to pay their federal taxes, but they're not allowed to currently take standard business deductions. So capital improvements, basic expenses, the cost of your employees and their health care. All of these things are not tax write-offs the way that we incentivize businesses and every other aspect of the economy. So we'd fix that problem for the existing industry, which is really hurting. You know, the big guys can take it. They can take those losses.
Right.
They just want to wait out, and it's really hurting the small businesses. And then, yeah, the 5% excise tax would only go to these other programs. Another program is through the SBA. It would be a twofold system. One, directly supporting entrepreneurs who have been victims of the war on drugs to enter the economy. There's been a lot of debate on Capitol Hill as to whether or not the bill should focus resources specifically to support people entering the cannabis industry versus the general economy. But in this one, the way it's set up is if you or a member of your family have a drug arrest, aka are a victim of the war on drugs, there would be an additional SBA pool only accessible to those folks to help them set up a business or build a business. The second part would be through the SBA to incentivize state and local governments to set up what's commonly referred to as a social equity licensing program. And when we're seeing marijuana being legalized in states across the country, there's a lot of really well-intentioned experiments to promote minority ownership, to promote local ownership. But given the lack of access to capital under prohibition, given the unfair tax treatment under prohibition, and given the unwillingness of local policymakers to invest in the kind of regulatory atmosphere, they pass that cost on to the entrepreneurs filing permits.
So Justin, listen, I hear what you say when you say well-intentioned. So given that, and if we're talking about 5% of something like this, we're talking about an enormous amount of money. So who provides oversight for that to deal with these well-intended programs that may or may not be successful? But who provides oversight there?
Oh, when I say the well-intended social equity programs, those are all done at the state and local level, similar to in how, you know, in each city there's their own alcohol control.
Okay, I can accept that. Yeah. But the more important aspect of it is who provides oversight to this enormous amount of funding.
There would be a mixture depending on which aspect of the funding we're talking about. There would be it'd be either through SBA or DOJ. So for the reinvestment activities, all of the things. Oh, and then there's additional community grants that would be able to be used for things like reentry services, job training services, and a number of other programs that were also included. So all of that, we would say, this substance has been criminalized. This substance has been used. Criminalization has been disproportionately used to go after Black people, brown people, and poor people. And we are going to invest the revenue that's generated in trying to undo that harm for the foreseeable future.
Okay. You mentioned that one of the members of Congress from the state of Florida, I think you said the state of Florida, refer to this as perpetual reparations. Now, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to drop that and not give us the name. This was behind the scenes or something off the record.
Well, I feel uncomfortable saying his name because the reason why I framed it that way, he then voted for the bill. And this is Matt Gaetz of Florida. I don't like platforming Matt Gaetz, so I don't like saying.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand. But then he voted for the bill. So that why would he? I want to get into the politics a little bit of it because I'm curious as to how this is going to play out, and because there are going to be a lot of beneficiaries from the marijuana industry in general. There are going to be beneficiaries from the MORE Act specifically. What is your projection in terms of how this is going to play out as a vote? Is it going to go? I'm very surprised to hear that Matt Gaetz actually signed on to it, except for the fact that there are obviously benefits for his constituents. What are the politics around the board? What do you think how the vote is going to go down?
Well, when this bill was first taken up, there were 6 elected Republicans who voted in favor of it in December of 2020. So it was after the election in the lame duck. And I will caveat, I said elected Republicans because one of them was Justin Amash, who had since that time left the Republican Party.
Right.
This year, we do expect it to be, we do expect a couple Republican votes, hopefully, but we do expect that number to be lower. One of the Republicans who voted in favor of the bill was Don Young of Alaska, who just passed away a week and a half ago. And unfortunately, right now, David Joyce, a Republican of Ohio, who has been a co-chair of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, actually sent out a whip email to his Republican colleagues urging them to vote no for the bill, specifically citing the social equity concerns. Because Joyce does not believe that we should connect ending prohibition and addressing the harms that prohibition has wrought. And I think that's a fundamental tactical error, as we are now presented this opportunity to try to significantly shift. And I don't think we should leave people behind. But I do expect it to be a much more partisan vote, right?
And so, John, I'm sorry, Justin, let me ask this question. Where's John Boehner on this situation? And for most of us who may remember, John Boehner used to be Speaker of the House. And now I do believe that he is a very big lobbyist for the cannabis industry. So where's John Boehner on this issue?
So I was just talking with one of the folks over at the Cannabis Trade Association, where John Boehner is the chairman. Between us, I think that their organization plays up how active John Boehner is more than John Boehner is really that active. Just to say the quiet part out loud about how trade associations work and why they bring in lawmakers, so that way, because we're here, we know his name, but and their trade association is called the National Cannabis Roundtable. They're officially publicly in support of the MORE Act. But I don't want to in any way, shape, or form give anyone the impression that I think that they're doing a significantly
and the reason
lobby for it.
I mean, Justin, and I think your statement holds true from the standpoint that, given how influential John Boehner was and arguably is to the Republican Party, to know that he's a lobbyist for that industry, for the legalization of marijuana nationwide, and not have Republican votes.
That's interesting.
So in this case, I can absolutely understand what you're saying, that they play him up to be more involved than maybe he is.
And the simple fact that this small portion is going to go to what they consider to be perpetual reparations, which is clearly an overstatement, but this modest look back at the damage that was done to the Black community and to all the communities targeted by the war on drugs. Even this is too much for some of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I guess we'll refer to them as. Justin, I want to thank you for coming on this morning and updating us on this. Go ahead, Dr. Mack.
Before we let him go, Justin, I just want to bring this maybe a little bit closer to the Black community. With Judge Jackson going through confirmations as U.S. Supreme Court. Now, she was on the Commission for Sentencing Guidelines. And I know that because she had a relative of hers who received an extended period of time for a nonviolent, low criminal drug offense, and ultimately had President Obama to help with that situation. But I know when she became a member of the U.S. Sentencing Guidelines, she addressed a lot of these sentencings that were affecting folks on these nonviolent situations. So what has been her efforts in regards to the Moore's bill that you all are pushing forward now?
Oh, well, so the judge has not been out in support of the bill, because that's not, we want her to stay in her lane so that way we can put her on the bench. Because, oh my goodness, the Republicans would attack her if she had even commented on this. But I bringing up the judge, I want to just truly acknowledge how significant it would be to have her on the Supreme Court, and to have someone with her thoughtfulness and with her tenacity at addressing the resentencing aspect of it, and how she has been such a tenacious pusher for having it be automatic.
Right.
Because I say this on the Hill all the time. They say, oh yeah, there's expungement programs. They're petition based. Those who need them the most, they are still out of reach, or they might not know they exist. People should just get a letter in the mail that says weed's okay now, and you no longer have a criminal record.
Right.
That's right. That's right. And absolutely.
Before we have, I want to say thank you to Act TV, who joined on as a co-sponsor of a petition that my organization Bullpack put forward. We got almost 60,000 signatures. And I was using that as leverage when I was talking to the speaker's office and the leader's office over the last few weeks. And it, in concert with all of the work of the Marijuana Justice Coalition, we were able to get this vote because we wanted to see this vote before they went on recess for the month of April.
Well, Justin, I echo Ben's sentiments. You've been very insightful. I know to both Ben and I, and I'm sure to our listeners of giving us updates on your progress. And I want to congratulate you guys for some real out of the box thinking. I would have never, in my wildest imaginations, brother, would have thought that you would have gotten this far with what you proposed. And I certainly appreciate that. And just one final question to you. I know that there's been a lot of talk around legalization of marijuana nationally. And I know that we have pockets of it in various states. But right now, what makes it cumbersome for marijuana to really take off is because it doesn't have that federal legalization, which means they can't use funding raised in American banks. So the whole banking system can't be a part of it. So given that, when do you expect for marijuana to be federally recognized and legalized in this country?
I get asked that question a lot, and I, I'm going to give you my cop out answer, which I'm not a pundit. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm an advocate. And it, I recently left my previous organization to set up a PAC because I think it's absolutely critical that we need to go defeat some prohibitionists in the Senate, because the number that keeps me up at night is 60. How is it in this partisan, polarized, toxic environment do we ever get 60 votes on a marijuana bill in the U.S. Senate? It could be 2 years from now. It could be 10 years from now. It could be we never do it and the republic falls with prohibition still intact. It's, I take nothing for granted. And unfortunately, under this current system, we now see some marijuana companies preferring the status quo compared to comprehensive reform because, lack of access to banking systems. The rich are able to pay huge fees and get access to basic banking services. Small entrepreneurs cannot do that. The average bank charges $7,000 a month to have a checking account if you're a marijuana business.
They charging you 7 G's
a month.
Oh, get the hell out of here.
Because they don't want the risk because of federal prohibition.
Right. I got you.
Mm.
Man, we got to have him back, man.
No, there's
a little bit more.
Brother Mac, I didn't know you were so interested in marijuana. Justin Streckel, listen, thank you. The Bowl Pack. I'm just going to assume Bowl obviously stands for what we all believe it stands for. Is it an acronym?
Better organizing to win legalization. Bowl Pack's the pack that wants to defeat prohibitionists.
Absolutely love it. Justin Streckel, thanks so much for joining us. And we're definitely going to have you back
Appreciate it.
As soon as we can.
Thank you both for what you do. Have a good one.
No doubt.
Absolutely. Dr. Mac.
Yeah, I get into a little bit of everything, baby.
I was like, wait a minute. I didn't know because when we talk, I just never figured you would be that interested in that particular interview.
Listen, man, I follow a lot of it, man. I remember when marijuana was coming on the scene and they're talking about the legalization of it. And Ben, I will tell you, there's a company, and it's slipping my mind, but they deal with a lot of the alcoholic beverages. And so they put a huge stake into a cannabis company, and trust and believe. When we come off from break, I'll let you know who it is. But a lot of what was happening, a lot of the excitement around the possible legalization of marijuana, it like it normally does, man. It takes off in Canada, and we just knew that it was going to come down here and sweeping legislation. And when I saw John Boehner get involved, I'm like, damn, here on one side, you're hearing the Republicans being all conservative and this, that, and the other. Now Boehner leaves Congress, and the lobbyists approach him, and he's supposed to be the big voice behind it. But no, man, I've been keeping up with it. So, and to his point, the part that is absolutely crushing the small guy. So when you hear about marijuana taken in different states, it's the fact that they can't aid and they can't participate in the federal banking aspect of it. But anyway, I hear the music. I'm laughing at that.
No. I was like, listen, I don't even have to. These are the right questions. Amazing questions, Dr. Mack. And I know our particular interest in this particular subject may vary slightly